So we're on daf, what is this? Yudam Beis, I think, right? Yudam Beis. Yudam Beis by the Mishnah. Yesterday we did about 2 daf. I'm not going to be able to finish the whole daf, the whole daf today, but as much as we can do. By the Mishnah, Basula Ksubas and Basayim Valmana Mona. We had talked yesterday if Ksuba is the rice or not. Came out of Machlokes if Ksuba of Basula is the rice or not. Maybe more of Basula is or not. But Almona, the Gemara said yesterday, that everybody holds that as Drabanan. How much is Ksuba? By Basula, it's 200 zuz, and by Almona, 100 zuz, half. And this is they talk about, the post can talk about if that has to do with the amount of silver, which would be the amount of silver that was in times of Chazal, which is much cheaper nowadays, but was once upon a time was worth a lot of money. Nowadays in silver, it will be significantly less. And they talk about if the ksuba goes according to the buying power of the 200 zuz at that time, and nowadays you'd have to translate it into the buying power of today. So that's the post can talk about that. It's not going to be in this figure, but there is a amount of silver that's called Masayim zuz. I have written down that it's about 120 gram, 120 gram of silver, which is very little. Well, I mean, another sheet of 960 gram, but it's very insignificant nowadays. So again, Basula Ksubasa Masayim Almana Mana. And then the Mishnah tells us, Anudin, Basula Almana Grusha Vachalutza Mina Erison. What if she was divorced or widowed or Chalutza only from Erison? She only had Erison, which that means Kedushin. She never had the second stage of marriage, which is called Nisuin, coming into the husband's house. And then she got divorced or widowed. Is there a ksuba also? Here the Mishnah says yes. There's a ksuba from Erison also. No, I'm sorry. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. It says it doesn't talk about if she gets ksuba from that first marriage, but it talks about now she's marrying a second time. She's marrying a second time. What kind of ksuba is she eligible to? Is she still considered a basula? She's a virgin, but she was married. She had Erison. Does she still have the status of a basula or not? So the Mishnah says yes. She only had kedushin. She never came into the husband's house at all, and then he died or divorced her, or he died without children, and then she became a chalutza also. Everything from Erison. So she doesn't get the status of a ba'ula yet, and therefore the ksuba is going to be 200, like a regular basula. Yesh lantanis basulim. If it comes out that she doesn't have basulim, so then he can say I didn't mean this. Mekachtos, then I don't have to pay. Maybe I don't have to pay even 100 because he thought that he's getting a basula. The assumption, if she never came into the husband's house, is that she's still a basula. Of course, why should she be a bula? The Mishnah is going to contrast this later on to the bottom of the next page. Bottom of the Daf Yudal over there says if there was nisuin, if she did come into the husband's house, even though she says that they never consummated the marriage, and she's still a basula, and then she got divorced or widowed, and now she's getting married again. Or then the Mishnah is going to say that she does not get any more on the second marriage. She's not going to get 200. So this Mishnah is not a chiddush too much because she didn't get, they didn't even get married. Second stage of nisuin, so she's still considered a basula. And for the next marriage, when she gets married, she's a basula. The chiddush is going to be the contrast to the next Mishnah, which is going to say that if there was a nisuin, the nisuin means she came into the husband's house, but then she says he died and they never consummated the marriage, they never had relations. So that the Mishnah is going to say later on that she is not considered a basula, even though physically she's a basula.
These are different things. The Almana, Gerusha, the Chalutza.
Right.
Right.
No, yeah.
She's all of these.
No. One of the three choices.
She's
a basula from. She's a basula.
Who's an Almana?
Who's a
Gerusha.
Almana, a Gerusha, a Chalutza, and all that from Erison.
Or what?
For all that is from Erison. She only had Erison in her first marriage. She had Erison, and her husband died. She had Erison, and her husband divorced her. She had Erison, and her husband died. Then she got Chalitza from the brother-in-law. But that all was from Erison.
Her ketubah will be
Masayim for the next marriage. Now she gets married, and the question is, what kind of girl is she? So she says she's a basula. And not only that, she never even came into the husband's house. So yes, we recognize that she's a basula, and she gets ksuba Masayim from the next husband.
for the next.
And if it comes out that she is not a basula after they have marriage, and he says she's not a basula, so he says, I didn't mean this. I had good reason to assume that she's a basula because she never even got nisuin. She never had nisuin. That's the Mishnah. This Gemara is all agarata, more or less, till the bottom of the page. What does the word almana mean? Maybe we should highlight this. The Gemara is going to talk about a couple of words. What is the word almana? It's a word in the Torah. What is it? What we know it means a widow, but the Gemara wants to dash. What does the word come from? Amar Avchana Bagdasa Almana Al Shem Mana. It has something to do with the word mana. The word Almana has the word mana over there. Why? Because that's what she gets. She gets a mana, like Amisha says that she gets a mana.
Mana is 100.
Mana is 100. So since she gets 100, so that's why she's called it Almana.
It sounds like
But-
a real drush, right?
Yeah, I would say so. But the Gemara continues, Almana ben Eretz Ma'ikil Meima. That's only, we said in the Mishnah just a second ago, we said if she could be Almana only from Eresin, and she doesn't get, she gets Mosayim. So she's not
Because
gonna,
she's going to get
right? There's an Almana that could get Mosayim also. So why are you calling her an Almana? You shouldn't call an Almana min Eresin Almana because she doesn't get mana. The answer is, I did the Hakawi la Almana, Hanami call Almana. Usually an Almana means from after marriage, after Nisuin. So that's why we call it Almana. But you're right, there is sometimes that there'll be a widow that is going to get 200, but we're still going to call her Almana because that's the general name. The Mar Sakasha, that's all good for when the Rabbanan call her Almana, but the Pasuk calls a widow Almana. Almana Raisa Ma'ikil Meimar, because there's no such din, but the Raisa there's no mana. The whole din is Rabbanan. Yesterday we said that there's no such din of getting a mana with the Raisa. The whole din of Ksuba is the question if it's the Raisa Rabbanan. Even if it's the Raisa, it's only on a Basula Masayim, like Mora Basulos, but there is no such thing as mana with the Raisa. So why does the Torah say Almana? It's the whole thing is a rabbinic invention. The Gemara answers
I'm
that
sorry, when it says Dixit Duras, it means that
it says in the Torah, Almana, which says in the Torah, the word Almana that is written in the Torah.
Oh,
What is that all about? Why does the Torah use the word Almana? You can't tell me the word Almana means because she gets a mana, because the Torah doesn't recognize that Almana gets a mana.
uh-huh.
The answer is the The Torah knew that the Rabbanan in the future are going to enact that she gets a mana, so the Torah calls it Almana because of the future. This all sounds like a drash. This is Mamash drash, but the Gemara is making it like the Torah. The Gemara takes the drash seriously. That you have to explain why the Torah says Almana. If the whole reason why she's called Almana is because of mana, there is no mana on the Torah level. The answer is the Torah knows that there's going to be one day mana of the Rabbanan, rabbinic. So the pasuk hinted in the word Almana that she's going to one day get the kana of mana. The Gemara says does the Torah do that? When we does the Torah say something that's going to be in the future? Yes, you find such a thing. That's all the pasuk in Bereshit where it talks about the rivers that come out of Eden. There became over there 4 rivers. One of them is called Chidekel, Tigris River, and it says that it's east of Ashur. Now Ashur at that time didn't exist. The Tanur of Yosef, Ashur Zuslika. I don't know how you say that in English, but Seleucus, something like that. And that nation did not exist at the time of Bereshit. That it didn't exist at the time. The Torah already writes that that river was east of Ashur, which is one day going to be called Ashur. So it's not a problem. The Torah can do that. The Torah writes what's going to be one day. That's the end of the Gemara. Because of that, we get a big bonus over here till the bottom of the page.
Are we to Umi or we went further?
1 second, please.
You said it was called Slika or Selika.
Yeah,
the end,
and
or-
Umi Havoy, did it
What?
exist? Umi Havoy, did it exist at that time? Ela Dasida. It's going to be in the future. Achanami Dasida. Because of this, we get a big bonus. Other words that we're going to explain also. Not Dafka words. We'll say not the words. The first one was like the etymology of the word. Like the word Almana comes from the word mana, and mana means 100, and that's because of Ksuba. Now we're going to talk about other words now. We're going to talk about mutter, the word mutter. And here we're not going to dash in the memtes resh. We're just going to say things about rain. It's the main reason why he comes in is because the author over here is Rafana Bagdasa. We'll put him on the thing also. He's the one who said all this. I think it means Rafana from Baghdad. And here also it's going to be Rafana from Baghdad. So bonus, like you do a lot of times once you mention the name. So we mention other statements that author said.
Something like Kemarocho, right? But when she's buried, if we say that it's going to have the name like in the future also, it's going to. Right. Yeah. what is that?
I think it's a question whenever it says in the pasuk "Ara Yobazeh," does it mean until the day that it was written? The Torah was written was mean the day that the reader is going to read it.
Right.
The pasuk Shada means that until the day that the Torah was written. Whenever it says "Ara Yobazeh."
Because usually it works out that when it says in the Torah.
But I think that sometimes when it says "Ara Yobazeh," it doesn't mean that it still is. So I forgot. It might be more about that. I don't know. The Gemara continues. New other words to talk about, but not the word. It's not the word. What does the word mutter mean? Just things about rain. And Rav Chana Bagdasar said it. What does rain accomplish? 1, mashke. Number 2, marveh. Number 3, mizabel. Number 4, ma'adin. Number 5, mamshech. That the rain accomplishes 5 things. 1 is that it waters the ground. Marveh, that it quenches the ground. Mizabel, it fertilizes the ground. Ma'adein, it softens the ground. I would think the word ma'adein means soft. And
Why would you
mamshich.
think mezabeh? You need something exterior to the mezabeh.
I heard something from Rabbi Miller one time, that not about this Gemara, but he says on the Kolos, how does it? He talks about the thunder. La Mator Asa. How does it go over there? How does it say in the pasuk? La Mator Asa. La Mator. No, that's in before the Hodus. Before. You can do on Shab. The Siddur before.
Rakim Lamatar.
Okay, thank you so much. Rakim La Mator Asa. So Rakim, lightning. So Rabbi Miller mentioned scientific fact that the lightning, after it rains, after a lightning, when a lightning, so then he explained what the lightning accomplishes in making a merge between different, hydrogen, and the rain that rains fertilizes.
Right after the.
When there's lightning, so then the rain that rains has the ability to fertilize the land also. I don't remember the details, just that was the miracle that Rabbi Miller was talking about, chat in the pasuk, Rakim Lamatar. So I don't know if that, he didn't say it on this Gemara, but you asked the question, how is it Mezabel? So maybe that's the
I'm thinking that maybe if you don't have rain, then it's just dry and doesn't get to the, it doesn't melt down and be what's the word, received by the plant.
receive what? Receive what? Receive the fertilizer.
No, that's a dry, if you have dry compost and it's there on the plant.
It's not
there's
enough. You have to have
water,
water to
so
rain.
it's just dry.
Okay.
It's like it doesn't really get absorbed.
Could be. The word Ma'adein, Rashi doesn't translate the word. No, saying Edna, the Ziv, it gives a shine to the Peiros. The word Ma'adein, I think literally means soft, where Rashi says someplace else. Okay, and Rashi goes to Eden on the Peiros. Mamshich, Bechar means to draw, means that it draws out the fruit. It's able to draw out the fruit from the ground. That the vegetation comes because of the rain. So I don't see any connection between the word Matar and all these things. And I think that it's not coming to say shot in the word, like the first Gemara Balmona. Just five things about the rain. The Gemara is going to do that in a few things now, and some of them are mamish not connected to the word. So I don't think we have to look for the mem and the test and the ratio over here, because I don't think that's what the Gemara is darshaning. The Gemara continues about the rain. Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yemer, Bashlemia, Mikra. Where do we see the pasuk? These five things that the rain accomplishes. These five things. It says the pasuk in Tehillim, Tlamer, Ravei, Naches Kedudah, Perivim Temogigena, Simchat Tevarech. A pasuk in Tehillim 65. And it's talking about Eretz Yisrael. Hashem gives rain to Eretz Yisrael. Tulamer Raveh. Hashem quenches the furrows. Naches Gedudah. Hashem makes that should come down or to calm the Gedudim, which would be also the sides, the banks. Verivim to Mogigena. Hashem makes it what's the word? To Mogigena, to soak. Rashi says with rains. Verivim is kinds of rains. Simchat Tevarech. Hashem makes that the vegetation should be blessed. And Rashi finds these five things. And that the pasuk said before, here Rashi says Raveh is going to be Mashkel Maveh, Temogigena is going to be Mazabel, Ma'adein or Mamshich Esaperos is from Simchat Tevarech.
I'm sorry, it seems like there are four from missing in the pasuk. How do you divide it?
Rashi says that the word Raveh will include Mashke and Marveh.
I see.
And Temogigena is Mazabel.
Mhm.
Temogigena is the Mazabel.
Mhm.
And Rashi is not saying everything for you. Rashi is not doing one for one. And I'm just saying Rashi. Rashi says Ma'adein, you learn out from Simchat Tevarech that there's blessing on that which grows is learned out from the point that it says that there's blessing on the tzemach. And the word, okay, so that's five things about the rain, and the pasuk that talks about the greatness of the rain and the things that it accomplishes. New Gemara. This is not going to be a fun about this. This is going to be Abu Lazar. But since also it talks about things that about the word, not Afka against, I think that's not going to be the translation of the word at all. This is going to be Abu Lazar, and his word is going to be Mizbeach. What is the word Mizbeach all about? I'm Abu Lazar. Mizbeach, Meziach, Mezin, Mechabev, Mechaper. Four things that the Mizbeach does. And again, I don't think that has too much to do with the word. So you might think that Meziach sounds like Mizbeach, but the rest of them don't. So I don't think that has to do with the etymology of the word. Meziach means to separate.
Mizbeach.
Meziach.
Meziach is to separate.
To move away. Mezin is to nourish. Mechabev is to make love, to cause to be loved. Mechaper is to atone. And the Mizbeach accomplishes these four things. The Gemara doesn't know yet what Meziach. Meziach means to remove, and the Gemara to move away. separate. The more things that means separates Averis, removes Averis, and the more is going to ask that that's the same thing as Machaper. To atone for Averis is all the same. The more doesn't discuss the next two, and the in middle two. Mezin means that it nourishes, which means that in the discuss of the Kabbalah, Am Yisrael gets food, and Mechabev means that it causes love. It causes love between Am Yisrael and Hashem and Am Yisrael. But the more thinks that Meziach and Mechaper both are the same thing. That takes away Averis. That's the more Kasha. Hainu Mechaper, Hainu Meziach. It's the same thing. The answer is Meziach Gezeros, Mechaper Avonos. It removes their decrees. In the discuss of the Kabbalah, it removes their decrees, and it atones for sins. So that was about the Mizbeach. The Gemara continues back to Rav Chana Bar Desar, and it's going to talk about dates.
Zera is like on a claw.
Decrees doesn't say plow or prat, but it says decrees. They are decrees of
But the decree
punishment.
sounds like on the whole nation as opposed to an avon. Well,
No,
could
one is a
decree
sin
against
and
that
one is a
person.
decree. The decree of punishment, the other one is a sin. That Hashem, the two different points. One is that the punishment is rescinded. The one is that the sin is forgiven.
Mhm.
It doesn't say about a plow or a prat. It could be both for the Akabana Sibur or Akabana Siachid. The Gemara continues with Rav Chana, but this is another one about Rav Chana Bar Desar, just to point out that the one before was Rav Elazar, but this one goes back to Rav Chana Bar Desar, and he's going to talk about dates. And this one also is not going to talk about the word, nothing about the word Tamar. He's going to say a lot of characteristics about dates, and he's not going to mention about the word Tamar. And here goes things about the dates: Meshachnan, Mesaban, Meshalshalan, Ma'ashran. The Lom Lefankan, four good things, and one doesn't. It doesn't have one bad thing. It means altogether 5 good things about the dates. B'shachan means that it heats, when a person eats dates, it heats the body. Misaban, it satisfies, it's very satisfying when you eat dates. B'shalshalan, it's a laxative. Ma'ashran, it strengthens. The lo mefankan. So the word mefana, Rashi says, like, sounds like something which is very delicate and istinus. So it doesn't cause istanisa ala lev. I don't know how Rashi knows that, but it's something with the heart. But you might think that it causes some kind of a sensitivity to the heart. It doesn't. It doesn't have that problem. Rashi says kudon l'shabach. All 5 things are good, positive things. That
What was the mashar?
Mishachnan. Mashran is that it strengthens. Mishachnan to heat. Misaban to satiate. Mishalshalan, laxative. Mashran, strengthen. The Loma Fankan, and it's got from Rashi that dates are surely laxative. That's for sure. Yeah.
A doctor once told me, the doctor the overdrive got his neck. Dates are good for
The Gemara talks about once you mentioned it, the Gemara talks about Psachim that Ula was one of those who traveled back and forth from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. He came to Bavel and they had Bavel a lot of dates. The Gemara even says one of the reasons why Hashem chose Bavel to be the place to be exiled Am Yisrael is that they should eat dates and learn Torah, because you don't have to plant it, you don't have to work. There's plenty of dates and you can eat. Ula came to Bavel, he saw dates. He said, delicious dates. How much does it cost? They told him the price. He said, why are they not learning Torah? They have so many dates. But then at night he had a stomach problem, and then in the morning he was so impressed. You have dates and you still learn Torah, like yeah, it means you have to eat it in moderation. But it is satisfying. It has all these mindless, but in moderation. And
Rabbi Kiva say you should make Birkat Hamazon on dates.
I don't remember it's Rabbi Kiva, but we do pass like that. I don't want to call it. No, Rabbi Kiva is no. Rabbi Kiva holds even shalak umazon. Rabbi Kiva holds anything that satisfies you. But we pass in that tomorrow, if you have it said Berachas Hamazon, based on this Gemara probably that the dates do give satisfaction, and therefore it's an exception to the other foods. And if you said Berachas Hamazon, but you are Yotze. That's the Gemara in Brachas towards the beginning about Yud Beis. That if you said Berachas Hamazon on dates, you're Yotze because it satisfies. Yes, but they said Berachas Hamazon. If you said Berachas on apples, if you're going to say Berachas Hamazon, you're not Yotze. But on dates, you are, because dates you do give satisfaction.
What could you repeat what Rashi said on the
In Fankan, I don't really understand it, but it says that it doesn't cause.
Like the word mitfunak?
Yes,
Yeah, which
Why
means
is
what,
mitfunak?
it makes
Yeah.
you gentle? Or-
it's kind of a delicate. The person's a mufunak means he's very delicate. And here,
And dates are delicate? or
no,
they make
no
you-
mefankan. It doesn't have the problem making something about istinis alaleh. It doesn't cause this kind of sensitivity to the heart. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just trying to translate the words. So it doesn't have that deficiency. It has 5 qualities, and it doesn't have the deficiency that you might have thought of. You might have
I
thought
see.
that it has. Those are the 5 things about dates. Amarav. The Gemara talks about dates a little bit. Amarav. Achal Tamorim al Yoreh. Somebody ate dates. He's not in the state of clear mind that he should be able to pass in the dates as whatever the reaction of the body to eating dates is that he's a little bit what's the word? Fuzzy, or he's unclear. The same way when you drink wine,
Oxidation.
that
Intoxicate dates.
What is the word?
Sugar makes anybody.
I'm sorry.
Intoxicate.
It intoxicates a bit. And therefore he shouldn't paskin. He doesn't have a clear mind after he eats dates.
Really?
Meisveit, the Gemara says the dates are great. Why does Rav say that it's not good? Tomorrow Shachris v'Arvis Yafos, it's good to eat dates in the morning and in the evening. The Mincha rose, afternoon time is not good to eat dates. It doesn't say why, but maybe we'll see. Rashi says something about if he ate bread already, we'll see something tomorrow. But Sarayim ain't Kamosan. The best noontime to eat dates is mamish the best, nothing like it. And it takes away three bad things. Machshava ra, choli ma'ayim, v'tachtonios. Machshava ra probably means like worrying and stuff like that. What does Rashi say? Machshava ra. Any Rashi?
Yeah,
Yeah.
4 lines from the bottom.
Where's that? I don't see
4
it.
lines up from the bottom. Oh, no, it's not right
Bottom line, by me, it's the bottom line.
there. Oh.
I'm looking for
okay,
Rashi.
Yeah,
Different
yeah. I have
Gemara,
it.
different Gemara. A daga it takes away the worry. He doesn't worry because it makes a person happy. Dates make a person happy. Okay, so that it's a good thing. Takes away machshava ra. It also takes away cholimayim, stomach problems, and also tachtonios. Tachtonios usually is bowel problems. So it's wonderful. So why is Rav saying not to eat that if someone ate dates, you shouldn't pass it? The Gemara puts it all together as if it's good or not good. The Gemara says it depends. We didn't say that it's good. Rav said it's not good. Ilui Malu is very good. But temporarily it'll intoxicate him. But it doesn't mean that it's not healthy. It has all these miles. It's not a contradiction. Just like wine. Wine also, a lot of good things about wine. But after you drank wine, you're a little bit intoxicated and you shouldn't pass him. Shows a revius. If someone drank revius, even though it's a good thing, wine's a good thing, but has a lot of qualities. It's probably healthy also. But don't pass him because he's a little bit fuzzy. Also, you can say different terrorists, that it depends when you eat the date. Sometimes we're going to say that it's good and you are allowed to paskin, and sometimes it's not good, and that's when you shouldn't paskin. Before you ate bread, after you ate bread, you shouldn't eat dates on an empty stomach. That dates before eating bread, if you eat dates without the bread, so then it's like an axe to the date tree. It's destructive. But after eating bread, then it's like Ibril Adosha, which Rashi says means that it strengthens the body the same way that a bar would strengthen the door. You have a door, so you put a briach that holds the door strong. So too, the dates would strengthen the body. So
Not before, but after.
after you eat bread. It seems like don't eat it on an empty stomach. After you had bread, so then eat dates, then it's good. Rashi before goes back when it says about the morning and all this, but Sarayim, Rashi says Sarayim is after you ate. In the morning, the Rashi has to figure out with the Gemara. Now, once the Gemara says that it's good
Not
after
good,
you
then.
ate, after you ate is good, before you ate it's not good. Rashi said before, follow the milsa, after you eat is good. Rashi goes back. I'm going back in the Rashi where it said before, morning and evening is good, and mincha is bad, and Sarayim is the best. So Rashi says that people eat Pashachris, and Arvis also eats supper. So then those are the times that it's good to eat dates. The mincha rose because you didn't yet eat, so you're hungry, so you're not supposed to eat dates on an empty stomach. But Sarayim means after you ate, right after you ate.
I understand mincha meaning like mincha ketana.
It could be that it's before supper, but it's late enough that you're hungry, so that's called empty stomach. But Sarayim is noontime, so you had already your main meal, and then you eat dates. That's the best. And Kamosam, that's the best. Rashi points out that why is that the best? Because other times you might have shul. It's a laxative, so you have to be near a place where you could relieve yourself.
It's always good. We always have bathroom nearby.
Could be.
Everyone has bathroom nearby.
Okay, could be. The more continues. So all that was about dates. How does it come in? Because Rav Chana Bagdasah said things about rain, about dates. Really came back from our Gemara that's talking about Almana. But once we had that, so we said some other things also. The Gemara now at the bottom also, Agav throws in some other words also, but here it goes back to the etymology. Here it is going to talk about the breakdown of the word and show the similarity. It's going to talk about the word dasha and the word darga and the word puria, which are all Aramaic words. And the Gemara is going to explain where the word comes from. We had this in Gemara Shabbos. It says in the side Shabbos Ayin Zayin over there. Also, the Gemara said these three things. Where does the word dasha come from? Dasha means the door. Amirava derech sham. That's the way you go. The word dasha is a combination of the word derech sham. That's the path to go through there. The way to go there.
This is showing the chachma of the Arabic language.
No, there's the breakdown of the language.
Why is it?
Why do we of Aramaic? Why are we interested in Aramaic? Aramaic, you see something special about Aramaic. It's not. It's like a sister language to Hebrew. The Torah uses it sometimes. The Sefer Daniel and Ezra is written in it, and it's just that's the Parsha Shavua. It says Ataros v'Divon in this week's Parsha, and there's a Gemara that says you're supposed to do Shamik v'Echa Targum even on the pasuk Ataros v'Divon. Ataros v'Divon doesn't have any Targum on it, and the Chumash puts in the Targum Yerushalmi, and the Parsha the Gemara is to say that Ataros v'Divon, even though it doesn't have Targum, say Targum anyway, whatever that means, or say the pasuk 3 times. To ask the kasha that Ruvain, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, other pasukim also where it says a pasuk without any Targum. Why do you have to wait? Why is the Gemara pick Ataros v'Divon in Parshas Matos? It could have said something in Parshas Shmos that you have a pasuk without any translation. So I heard that maybe it's Shem Degru, I don't remember, that Ataros v'Divon is Eva Yarden. Eva Yarden is something between Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz. It's like a level that's less than Eretz Yisrael proper, but it's more than Chutz La'aretz. Aramaic is also something in between Hebrew and the rest of the languages. So it's hinting that there's something about the connection between Eva Yarden, this level in between. It's similar to like an Evet Kanani, something between a Jew and a Goy is Evet Kanani, something in between. Aramaic seems to be something, it could be that Gemara dashes other languages also sometimes, but here maybe Aramaic is more dashing over here. Dasha, what is Dasha? Why is it called the door called the Dasha? Because it means Derech Sham. Why is a Darga a step? Why is a step called the Darga? Also Aramaic, Amarava, Derech Gag, the way to get to the roof. Derech Gag, that's the word Darga. What's the word Puria? Puria means a bed. Why is it called a Puria? Amra Papa, Shaparan Biravan Allah. We procreate on a bed. Paran Biravan. That's the real word Paran Biravan.
Town called Puria in the Galilee, so the Canary means a bed. Puria.
Puria means a bed. I'm not sure what you're referring to. The word Puria means a bed. I'm not sure what you're referring to. The word Puria means a bed in Aramaic. The way.
But Puria, this town, could mean.
Oh yeah, that's something else. We're not talking about the town. We're talking about the bed. The bed is called Puria. The word Puria means a bed. If it has another meaning someplace, that's not the subject here.
And what is he saying? Shapurian
Pruvu. Shaparan Biravan Allah. That the bed is used for procreation.
was over Rabbi. Puravu.
Puravu. And one more. Amrav Nachma Yitzchak Af. Anu Nomar, islandess. Why is a woman who cannot, a sterile woman, why is she called an islandess? Where does the word come from? Also a drash. The chronis, the lo yolda. It's like a zohar, ayol is a ram. Rachel is a female sheep, and the ayol is a male ram, a male sheep, a ram, and she has this masculinity that she's not able to have children. She's called an islandess. So all that came in Agav. We could put ended parentheses over here. This was closing the parentheses. The whole Gemara came in Agav. All that was to us was that the reason why Almana is called a mana is called so because of a mana, which a widow only gets a mana usually. The whole Gemara today's parentheses come out. It started Amrav Chana Bagdisa. 5 lines after the Gemara started. The first Gemara was about Almana. That's the only one that's negated to us. The Gemara says it's because of a mana. Amana Manerison is Aga because she gets Masayim, but usually Amana gets only 100. In the Torah, Lord Hashem said that one day are going to be Mitake in Amana, the same way that you see that the Pasuk talks about Ashur, even though they didn't yet exist. And the rest of it, the Gemara spoke about Matar, Mizbeach, Tamar, and then about Tamorim, Dasha, Darga, Poria, and Ivanus. Back to Maseches Kesuvos. Next Mishnah. Hagioris, Vashvuya, Vashivcha, Sheniftu, Veshenes Gairu, Veshenes Tachru, Pusafik Shana Yom Echad. A girl that became Jewish, not Jewish. Some of them are Jewish. A Gioris became Jewish less than 3 years old. Then what's going to talk about? How could you have such a young Gioris? But if a girl became a Gioris less than 3 years old, even if someone would have.
We don't know there's less than 3, right?
It says Shana Yom Echad.
Oh.
That's just a long sentence.
Rebbe wasn't Avram about 3?
Was he 3?
When he
okay.
Started to realize it.
Yeah, but when Hashem spoke to him, it was more than 3. But that wouldn't be called a Giyur. When did Abraham recognize Hashem? But it doesn't mean that it became the status of a Bardas yet. But also Abraham is different. Here it talks about a Gioris that became a Gioris less than 3 years old. And the Gemara's going to talk about it. A Shvuya means that she was captured to captivity by Goyim, and the question if she was raped, but she was taken less than 3 years old. And the Gemara's the point is going to be, even if these girls were raped less than 3 years old, it doesn't cause any problem to her virginity because she gets her virginity back. That the Basulim, the hymen will grow back if even if it was removed before the age 3, it's going to come back by the age 3. So therefore, these girls, even if they might have been raped, still they would still have a din of a basula. The 3 cases are a giores that became a giores less than 3 years old, a shvuya, a girl that was a Jewish girl that was captured at a goyim less than 3 years old, and a shifcha that she was a shifcha kananis, then she was redeemed less than 3 years old. That's the point of the Mishnah. A giores that became a giores less than 3 years old, a shvuya that became redeemed. It says in a different order. Sheniftu, b'shenisgai, b'shenishtacharu. What the right order would the regular order would have been. Hagioras v'ashvuya v'ashifcha shenisgairu v'shenifdu v'shenishtacharu chusas v'beno shel shon b'yom echad. So the halach is they're considered a basula because even if they were raped less than 3 years old, it doesn't affect their virginity, and therefore she'd be a basula at the time of marriage. Subas and Masayim, yesh lam tanis basulam. Also, that when they get married, they are eligible to psuba Masayim as if to being a basula. And if she's found not to be a basula, so the husband can say, I didn't mean this, I meant to marry a basula. So that's another continuation of the Mishnah before. Just like we said that a basula in the erison, a basula was this gashu in the erison, she's considered a basula. These women also, even if they were raped, but since it was less than 3 years old, it wouldn't take away her status of a basula. Tolgamar is going to talk about how is it possible to have a giores less than 3 years old.
I thought a taina is like usually a claim. But
yeah, he has a claim. If she's
she
not
has
a
a
basula,
claim.
he has a claim. There's a claim against her if she's not a basula. That means if the husband marries and says she's not a basula, so that's a claim because he was marrying her with the intention that she is a basula.
Yesh lahem ta'anas basuli means that we assume that she's a basula.
The word tana means that there's a tanas basulim against her, that the husband has the right to have a claim against her if she's not a basula. Well, a woman that's married as a basula, gets married as a basula, and the husband comes and says after the first night, he says she's not a basula. Like we had a couple of daf about this. So there are some women that there's a taina against them, and some women she says, of course I'm not a basula. I'm money, don't you know? Right? There's only a woman who is considered assumed a basula. There's a taina against her. Against not being a basula. That's what tanas basula means. Tanas basula means that there's a claim against her. You're not a basula. That's only somebody who was assumed to be a basula. That she wasn't a basula. She was expected to be a basula. So it's a taina if she's not. But this girl, the Gemara is saying that she should be a basula if she got married, and now she's 12 years old. She's getting married, and then the husband says she's not a basula. So she can't say, what did you think? Didn't you know that I was a giores? He says, no, you were giores from age 3, and less than 3, you should have been a basula. So this is today's Gemara over here. Ger Katan. Here's the highlight. This is today's highlight. Ger Katan. Ma'adbilan also Adas Bezdin. That a minor, a goy, Bezdin could immerse him to make him into a Jew. So who's bringing him to Bezdin? So Rashi talks about the mother, or the Rambam says he himself comes to Bezdin. Whatever the case is, the parents are not around. Could a katan become a ger? So if one says yes, Bezdin could make a katan a ger, even though he doesn't have das. So how could Bezdin make him a ger? Bezdin can make a katan a ger. They're not going to grab a kid off the street, a goyish kid, and throw him into the mikvah and make him a ger. But if he,
Here's a case as a father is a Jew and married a Jew, and then he does tshuva. Now he's
so I said, Rashi says the case would be that the mother brings him, and he wants to make.
it's like the opposite. The father brings him.
If the mother's a Jew, then he's a Jew. He doesn't need to have to come a ger.
No, he married a shiksa.
So
He's Jewish, but he married a shiksa.
so he's saying the father's bringing him. So we'll see the Gemara soon that if the father wants to make, the father's Jewish.
Yeah.
And he wants to, okay, it could be. The Gemara's going to talk about that, not about that case, but the Gemara's going to talk about the father coming to bring him.
Yeah.
So the Rashi talks about the mother coming to bring him, or he comes by himself. For some reason, the father coming to bringing him is more simple. We'll see in the Gemara soon why. So here it talks about that Bezdin could make a goy katan to become a ger. And the Gemara says, what's the chiddush? I think it's a huge chiddush. But the Gemara says, what's the chiddush? Of course, it's a great thing to be Jewish. It's a credit, it's a merit to be a Jewish. So therefore, we know a regular cloud that you could do a schus for somebody. So of course, since it's schus to be Jewish, so even though he doesn't have das, well, we could give him the benefit. So what's the chiddush? Of course, if you know of course, Bezdin could make him a ger without his das. When he'll get bigger, he has das. Right now he doesn't have das, but Bezdin can do it without his das. And the Gemara says, we know that it's not a chiddush. We learned in the Mishnah, you could do a merit for somebody, a benefit for somebody, even without his presence, but you can't do something which is a detriment for him only if his consent. But here, since it's considered a schus, so you don't need his consent. So it's pressure. The Gemara is not arguing. The Gemara is just asking. That goes without saying. The Gemara answers, "Ma'aru tema goy lefkei nichole." You might think that a goy doesn't like to be Jewish. He likes to have hefkerus. He should do whatever he wants. He doesn't want to be restricted. He looks at Judaism only as restrictions, and even though it's good restrictions, but he doesn't want that. He'd rather be hefker. The same way you find that an Eved likes that. The Eved v'adai lefkei by Eved Kanani, we find such a thing that it might not even be considered a schus to get free. Eved, someone who's a slave, Eved Kanani, that it's not so simple that it's a schus for him to become free because he likes this life of a slave. He has all the shfachos, all the shifcha kananis, that they enjoy life in a different way than a decent person, and they enjoy that better. They'd rather be like the Gemara says, shchichalei, zilalei, pritzalei, that they enjoy their way of life, even though it's not as noble as being a free man. So if that's true by a Eved Kanani, it's also true by a Goy. So therefore the Goy is not so excited to become Jewish. And even though we know that it's better to be Jewish, but he doesn't know it. And when Zachem Adam Shlabafanav is only if he would really like it. But if he doesn't like it, even though he knows it's good for him, you don't have this clout. So therefore you might think that you can't make him a ger without his das. And that a katan doesn't have a das. Kamash Malon, what's the answer? Kamash Malon what? That he does consider it a schus. Tani Mili Godel, the Tam Tam Yisura, of a katan schus. Only once he got old enough to engage and indulge in kinds of licentiousness, that he's going to be involved in this kind of a life, then he doesn't want the Jewish life. But when he's a katan, he's innocent, and then he does consider. Then if he would understand that he would want to become Jewish, and therefore it's a schus.
What do these words mean? Gadol is a verb here?
Gadol is an adult.
These words are an adult.
These words means when is it considered? When does a guy want hefkerus? When does he want? What's the word for hefkerus?
To be free, to be
Not free.
Huh?
To be what?
Not have the responsibilities.
Right.
Whatever.
When
Okay.
could he be? When does he like this irresponsibility? When he's an adult, that he already had indulged in isurim. He already had relations with
Tom here
girls.
doesn't
He
mean
tasted.
means
No, he
taste.
tasted. He tasted the
He tasted the
flavor,
flavor and he liked it.
and then he doesn't want to. Very, very possible he doesn't want to become Jew. But a katan, a minor who has not yet experienced all that, he's innocent, and for him, he would appreciate to be Jew. Of course, he doesn't have the das. You can't ask him. That's not the point. But the das that he has, he doesn't have the Yetzer Hara that would tell him not to be Jewish, and we know that it is good for him. So it's considered a schus, and therefore you can make him a Jew even without das. And that's the chiddush of Avuna.
Because he's a cut and he hasn't tasted yet.
Right. So therefore he doesn't. He's not against becoming Jewish. Not that he has das. He doesn't have das, but he doesn't. But if we can analyze what's good for him, and if he would want it, he would want it. Not the one wants to prove his point, because our Mishnah talks about that there's a Gioris less than 3 years old. There's an Persian Mishnah that you have a Gioris less than 3 years old. How do you have a Gioris less than 3 years old? It must be have Bezdin made him into a ger. We could support him. It says in our Mishnah, Gioris v'ashvuya v'ashifcha v'sheniflu v'shenisgayu v'shenistachvu chusif v'noshalom v'shalom v'yamachad. We don't need all the words. We just need the one point. There's such thing as a Gioris less than 3 years old. How did that happen? My love that Belinu Adas Bezdin isn't the case that Bezdin immersed this girl to become a Gioris less than 3 years old. But the Gemara says what Chaim David said. Lo, the gershon is guy who b'nosavimo. It could be that's the case with the father brought him. Rashi, I'm saying Rashi's shot. Rashi says that the fact that the father came, he became a goy, a father that came with his family to become gerib. So then he surely is happy to become a ger. The nichalu b'may davar avun. He's happy what his father's doing. He wants to be part of the family. And especially by the father, Rashi was going to distinguish between the father and the mother. That I don't understand. I would think that he wants to be part of the mother's family also. If the mother comes with the whole family to become Gerim, also he would want. Rashi seems to distinguish that if the father's being Megaya himself and the rest of the family, so then he surely wants to. And then the Cheshbonos, you're not going to. You don't have the Chiddush of Avuna that he doesn't. That it's good for him to become a Ger. This case is surely good for him to become a Ger because he's coming to Ger together with his father and the whole family.
The Nicola, who is the children.
Right, that the children
Children are going to like it because they want to be part of the family.
Right, they do. I should be more literal to the text because they're happy with what their father did. The fact that they're happy with their father's actions. But it doesn't say that I said this thing about the family. Maybe I shouldn't say it because that makes problems. He wants for the mother's family also. If the mother would be the one in charge of the family, and she would. But Rashi says that the father that brings the family to become gerim, that's not a chiddush, and you don't need a punah for that. The punah is saying a bigger chiddush. Even if the mother's coming, Rashi says, or the Rambam says he's coming on his own, and he wants to become a ger, Bezdin can accept him, and then the chiddush is that even though then you have Zachan Adam Shlomo Fanav, even on the case of the loss of all his Kerus, because it's good to be Jewish and he doesn't realize the taste of Avera yet. But you wouldn't see that chiddush from the Mishnah, because the Mishnah might be a case of the father bringing him. So, but the halacha is going to be like a Ravuna, that not only the father, even the mother or himself that come to Bezdin can make him into a ger. But the Gemara says there's no proof in the Mishnah.
There's one nafkamina that a father is chayv is about the ger. He's chayv on all the mitzvahs. The woman's only chayv on mitzvahs.
It doesn't. The halacha has nothing to do with mitzvahs. That's not the subject. The subject is if the kid is happy or not. The halacha doesn't have to do with the mitzvahs. The Gemara continues. Amar Rav Yosef. Another point about this halacha. This child who was made into a ger, either by Bezdin or by his father, they can protest when they become of age. So when he becomes bar mitzvah or bas mitzvah, so he has a choice of denouncing his Judaism. He could say that even though Bezdin made me or my father made me a ger 5 years ago, I don't want. And he is now not Jewish. And all the Judaism also that he was still also was not Jewish.
This is halacha.
This is not halacha.
It's like me for katana. I'm just trying to make a comparison. I'm not sure.
I would think no.
No, I
Maybe
just say,
there's a similarity. Okay, go ahead.
I just had, I after I heard the story, so I if he touched the grape juice Shabbos before.
And now he denounced the Judaism. That does it become also retroactively? I don't think so. But okay, it's a particular question about that halacha. Here it says when he becomes a gadol, he can protest his Judaism, and he just announced it he's not a Jew. And it happens. It happens. This thing happens. That sometimes, of course, happens many times that a father or Bezdin or the mother will bring the child into Judaism, and he's accident goes to yeshiva, whatever. He's a Jew, but when it comes to his bar mitzvah, so supposed to ask him, do you want to be Jewish?
Or you have to ask him.
Yeah. Oh, you have to tell him that it's his choice, and you tell him if you don't want to, so you're not Jewish.
But it's that now or never.
That's going to be more coming up soon. That he can't
Because it
say,
seems like
I'll decide in 2 years.
nowadays, it seems like 13-year-olds are immature or wouldn't have the power to say, I don't want to be Jewish.
So
And then
then-
later on, they may regret it.
So then you're saying that every 13-year-old shouldn't be chayv mitzvahs nowadays because they're immature. That's a good concept, but it seems to be that
No, I
13-year-old.
know a case, I'm not sure. I think the guy's Jewish, and like it seemed like probably retroactively he would have said, I don't want to be Jewish.
And
I don't
he
know. I don't
became,
know
you
if
saying he
he's-
became a ger at as
He
a
became a
child,
gear as a child.
and at 13 years old they asked
It
him,
seems like he's rebelling the whole time. So
and 13 years old, what was that all about?
I don't know. I'm not that close.
Is everyone knows the story of the bamboo cradle? Everyone knows the story of
No, I
the
don't
Chinese.
know.
There was a, yeah, so that there was
I
a
assume
girl, a
that
Chinese.
those children became Jewish.
They became Jewish, and by Bar Mitzvah, she made a big speech about how she's accepting Judaism.
Oh,
And
okay.
a beautiful, very noble speech.
Uh-huh.
And someone told me, Machabush told me, also knows the case that the boy that was coming Bar Mitzvah, and the girl before the Bar Mitzvah, or right after, he asked him, you want the Judaism? And these 2 cases, the answer is yes. Ram said a story that sometimes the kid said no. Okay, that's his choice. Does he want to be Jewish or not? Esvei Abai asked the kasha on Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef said that they could protest their Judaism when they become big. Hagioris, Vashui, Vashifcha, Sheniftu, Shenisgar, Shenishtachu, Fusis, with no Shalashon, Yamacha, Ksubas, Muslim. Our Mishnah, back to our Mishnah again. And there was an asked the kasha that it cannot be that he could denounce his Judaism because it says here that they're eligible to ksuba. So this girl who became a gioris less than 3 years old, and she gets married, she is eligible for ksuba masam. Ksuba, she gets married. And the kasha is if she could denounce her Judaism, so the case might be that she's going to get married and get divorced, and she got a ksuba of 200 zuz, and then she's going to say, I don't want the Judaism, and then it's going to be a goyish woman that has 200 zuz from a Jew. Why should we do that? Why should we make him pay 200 zuz if she might denounce her Judaism?
She's causing
The second marriage is also as a child. The second marriage is also as a child.
No, second marriage is that she's already a gedola.
So she already renounced.
So you're saying the Gemara's answer. Chaim David, what are you asking?
I'm saying that she chose not to be married to him. Therefore, why should she get?
She divorced. I understand. He divorced her. Somebody.
She asked if she wants to be. She wants to she wants out.
I don't know where we got that from. I'm not sure what we're
It's not
saying.
the case.
Let's start again. A girl was a Gioris, made a Gioris less than 3 years old. She got married and her husband divorced her.
Oh,
And she
I
gets
see.
Ksuba Masayim. And the question, why she gets Ksuba Masayim? She's going to go and denounce her Judaism. And then she's a Goyish woman running around with 200 zuz from a Jew. Why should we do that? The Gemara answers, Lachi Gadla.
Excuse me, I thought before on the previous page, we said for the next marriage.
That's right. Wasn't me next marriage. That's the case. The previous page was she was married already. She got divorced. We have to talk about a second marriage. Here we're talking about that she was a Gioris, less than 3 years old. Is she a basula or not? So we say she's a basula. When she gets married, she's eligible.
Oh, that's
to
a
a basula.
basula. And here we're talking about.
Also,
she
is
gets
she a
Messiah.
basula? Is she a basula? There was a gerushin and an almana. So then you're talking about, is she going to get ksuba the next time she gets married? Is she considered a basula after this
And
first
now we're
marriage?
talking about in the first marriage, which she did at the time.
Here we're talking about that it's a marriage after her gior. That's
Yeah.
the issue over here. So we say that the gior, she's still a basula, so when she gets married, she's eligible. And the kasha is that she could denounce her Judaism. The Gemara says, I did say that you asked a second ago, did she become a marriage when she's a gadol already? So I said yes, but the Gemara takes it in steps. Let's start first that she got married midrabanan. A girl could accept marriage also midrabanan and be eligible for ksuba. So I could start saying she's a katana. She got married at age 10, and then she gets divorced and she gets a
She
ksuba.
was a gear.
She was a gioris from before age 3, and she got married at age 10. There's such a thing as kedushin d'Rabbanan, even if the father doesn't marry her.
Okay, so we
And
assume
now he
she was a
divorces her.
basula,
Yeah, and I used to give her ksuba, and she's 11 years old, and now
And now when she's 12, she said, I
I
don't
don't
want
want to be a Jewish, and she has 200
I
zuz in her
don't
bank
know.
account.
Yeah.
So the Mayan says it's true. We don't give it to her right away. Escrow, what it's called, guys, it's called escrow. You put it in the account until we want to give it to her. Is that the right
Are
term?
we at Esau Kedaika?
If you entered your mind that when they get big, they could denounce their Judaism, we're going to give a ksuba that she's going to consume in her state of goyishness,
Kedusha,
her goyishness,
Oh, really?
her
I
Gentileness.
asked you what that meant.
What?
I was about to ask you what that means. You know,
In her state of goya.
uh-huh.
The Gemara answers lechi gadla. You don't give it to her until she becomes an adult. Means if she gets divorced at age 11, you don't give her the ksuba. You tell her come back when you're age 12, and then we'll give it to you. The Gemara says, kasha, then also the chigava nami memfa the nafka. Even if you give it to her after she's bas mitzvah, now she's not going to be okay. Yeah, but she might still denounce her Judaism. You give it to her at 12, and then the next day she's going to go and denounce her Judaism. The answer is no. This is what Beit Yaakov asked before. Can she indefinitely denounce her Judaism? No. If she didn't denounce her Judaism when she became of an adult, she can't denounce it later on.
Aber hier bei Right Sounds, she don't want to accept it. Warum she doesn't announce it?
But I think that she has to be told that she has the choice. If she doesn't know that she has a choice, and then it doesn't show anything. I think that's what they do. They tell her, you could denounce if you want to, and then she doesn't say anything. So that means that she's accepting it. So that's the Gemara's answer. That it's true she could denounce it but she has to denounce it as soon as she becomes the first opportunity after she becomes a gedola. If she got divorced before she was a gedola, we don't give it to her yet because she might denounce it when she becomes old. When she becomes an adult, so then we give her the choice. And if she says she's a goya, okay, you're a goya, but no ksuba. If she says she wants Judaism, then she's a Jew, and then she cannot denounce it anymore.
What's Mimachayev and Afka?
She'll protest and leave.
Oh, protest. Okay, thank you.
So that's all good. The Gemara says Rabbi Yosef said she could denounce it when she becomes big, and the Gemara said if so, you shouldn't give her ksuba until she becomes big. The Gemara says you're right. You don't give her ksuba until she becomes big. But when she becomes big and she accepted the Judaism, she can't denounce it anymore. So now it's safe to give it a ksuba. The Gemara is going to ask a similar kasha, the same kasha over again, but that was Abaya till now. Just to point out, there was Abaya. The Gemara is going to notice this soon that Abaya is the one who said this. So we'll just point out that this was Abaya. That's the kasha from. And now Rav is asking the next kasha.
His kasha was that, we might be giving 200 Jews to Goy.
Right,
And we answered it.
right, we answered it successfully. And now Rav is going to ask a similar kasha, and that is from Mishnah later on in the Masechta. The thing is that onus, if somebody rapes a girl, if somebody rapes a girl, a Nara, she's an adult, 12 years old, and she's a basula, and she's no, not Mulas, Shalor I'm sorry, Nara Basula. So she's eligible to Knas, but he has to pay a Knas for that rape. That Knas is 50 zuz. So it says the following are eligible for Knas. Avala Mamzeres, Vala Nesina, Vala Kusis, Vala Gyoras, Vala Shvuya, Vala Shifa, Sheniftu, Shenisgayu, Shenisnachu, Kusas, Medosh, Shalosham, V'Yom Yeshlam Knas. This is going to the din just to be a Basula. That is the only one eligible for a Knas of a onus is only if she is a Basula. And over there it says that these are considered Basula. First is a Chiddush about a Mamzeres and a Nesina and a Kusis. That's the side Chiddush, not our subject. Even though she's a Mamzeres, she's still eligible for Knas. I'm not going to go into that now. That's me later on. It says in the side of Chavtes. What we want is that if she's a Gioris who was Megaya less than 3 years old, she's considered a Basula. So again, she's considered a Basula. And if somebody had relations with a Gioris who became a Gioris less than 3 years old, now she's older, but now she's an hour, now she's 12 years old. The whole din of class is only when she's an hour Basula. But he raped a girl, he raped a Gioris at the age of 12, who became a Gioris before the age of 3.
For the age of
3. Before the age of 3, she became a Gioris. And at the age of 12, somebody raped her. So she's considered a Basula. We said that since she became a Gioris, even though a Goya is a Becheskas, that she could have been raped in her Goya as a Goya, but since it was before the age 3, she became Jewish, so that rape is not going to affect the Basula, and therefore she's considered a Basula, and the man who rapes her is going to be chayiv for raping a Nara Basula. What's the kasha? How did they become? What's the case? How did she become a Gioris? Like we said, because you basically can make her a Gioris, the father can make a Gioris even less than age 3. Now she could protest her. Could she protest?
Maybe we're going to be paying a knas
to a non-Jew because she's going to denounce her Judaism, right? If she could denounce her Judaism, you're going to give this knas. She's going to be eating this Torah mezuzah when she's a goya. Same kasha over again. The Gemara answers lechigadla. We don't give it to her until after she's a gedola, which Taisus points out that Taisus has a point over here that the whole din of knas is only when she's a gedola. The whole din of knas is only by nar basula. But just with the Gemara alone, the Gemara answers the same kasha. That's the answer lechigadla. We only give it to her after she's a gedola. The kasha is that she could still denounce it. We asked her, you want to be Jewish? She said, yes. So it's closed. And we give her the knas that she deserves, and she can't denounce her Judaism anymore because she's already said she wants it.
So they're parallel
kasha and
kashas.
right. And the Gemara now is going to just ask these two. Abai asked the kasha from the case of getting ksuba, and Rav asked the kasha from the case of the knas of a rape. How come each one didn't ask the other kasha? He dafka asked from this case of the ksuba, and he dafka asked the case of the kasha now. Abaye, why didn't Abaye say the same kasha to us as Rav? He could have asked by the case of the knas. Why did Abaye ask him too? He could have asked, how can you give a knas? The answer is that wouldn't have bothered him. Hasam knas timer. Shalo yehe chote miska. Wouldn't have bothered Abaye. How can you give it? You charge him knas, even though the girl might become a goya and run away with the Torah mezuzah, because he's a bad man. He raped. So we would rather give a knas to him. We want to make a knas.
It's more important the knas than it is.
Right, and the chance that she might become a goya. We'll say yes. You pay. She says maybe she become a goya. Yeah, maybe. Go ahead, pay the knas anyway, because you raped. So you deserve to be penalized, even if later on it's going to go to a goya. So that wouldn't have bothered him. Rav asked the kasha, but Abai said that kasha wouldn't have bothered me. And Rava lo Omar Abaye. Rava didn't ask the kasha of Abaye about a ksuba. Did he keep asking the kasha like Abaye asked? How can you give her ksuba? She might become a goya and run away with the money. The answer is ksuba hainu timer. Shaloi take calaban of lotzia. Rava, that wouldn't have bothered Rava. Wouldn't have bothered kasha ksuba, because ksuba is very important. That husband should not easily divorce his wife. This way he always has the ksuba on top of him. So even though you're right that by giving her ksuba, she's a gioris. He married a gioris, a young gioris, and he married her, and now he divorced her, and we want to tell him give her ksuba, and he might say she might become a guy. But what's that going to mean? That he won't give her ksuba. If not to give her ksuba, we don't want the marriage to be so fuzzy that anytime he wants, he can give her a get without giving ksuba. The ksuba solidifies the marriage. The fact that the husband would have to pay money, so he doesn't divorce so fast. So maybe that's more important than the chashash she might become a goya. We might say give ksuba, know that if you divorce this girl, you'll have to give her ksuba, even on the chance she'll become a goya. Why? Because we want to make sure that the marriage is solidified. So that wouldn't have bothered him. So each one didn't ask the kasha, but the vice of the terrorists is good for both of them. That you only give it to her after she becomes a gedola and she accepts the Judaism and she doesn't denounce it.
But it seems then that, I thought it meant that they just picked one and didn't say the other and that they were agreeing, but they're arguing with each other.
Very nice. Like Yaakov was saying that it could be
In
that,
terms of the halacha.
and in terms of Allah, let's say Rava, the person like Rava probably, so Rava might say that by the ksuba you do give it to her even as a ketana. It could be.
Why?
Because we don't want to take away the ksuba. We want to make sure that lo take alabain of lotzia, that he should will solidify the marriage and don't give her. And though it might happen that after the Gemara says that you give it to her, put an escrow, it could be that anyway it solidifies it just as much. On the chance that she become a goya, then maybe it is easier for him to divorce her because he's not sure he's going to lose the money. Could be. I thought a possibility of what you're saying could be. Just to get the halacha out, the main halacha is that a bezdin, the father surely, and even the mother, even the child himself.
Means the mother who's a Gioris.
Not that.
Or
If the mother's, if the goy also. The mother says that's good. It's good for my child to become a Jew. I can't do it anymore, but my child I want a good future. And she sees how the Jews are. It's good for him to be Jewish. She comes to Bezdin and asks to make him a Jew. Or the kid himself. The kid himself comes to Bezdin and says, my parents, they don't know what they're doing. I want to be Jewish. So Bezdin can make him again. And it's on hold, means we treat him as a Jew. And Rashi points out that the touches the wine, it's not going to become usher, and we treat him as a Jew. And when he becomes of age, either by a boy 13, by a girl 12, we ask him, you want to do Judaism? If he says no, so it's all off. If he says yes, then it's on, and he cannot retract anymore.
I would assume it's not retroactive in terms of like touching wine.
I would think so also. That's what Rav is for, is it retroactive? So I would think that talking to Rabbanan, unless it's going to be relative to the Rashi questions. If it's Rabbanan,
If he names himself tzitzis, it's on us.
You want to find the case of the Rashi also. Nice.
Remember the spies where the chest is kosher, and so they.
No, but we're talking about if
Why is there any different here? She was.
No, but if it comes out that even though Bezdin made them Jewish, but it doesn't take effect only because and then he's able. If he's really Jewish, he wouldn't be able to denounce it anymore. Someone who's Jewish cannot denounce his Judaism. If you say that's retroactive, that means that we thought, but we made a mistake. He doesn't want it. But his das is different than usual. Usually it's considered a schos, this kid doesn't want. But if it's not retroactive, how would he be able to denounce it? Okay, the Rosh Prokim for Daf Yomi, that's the name of the subject, that Bezdin could be Megayir with Goy's child. And the second point is that he could denounce it when he becomes Bar Mitzvah, Bas Mitzvah, and once they accepted it, they cannot denounce it anymore. It's 12 o'clock, whatever everybody wants, whatever.
Yeah.
A little further. Hagadol Shabbat Laktana, B'katan Shabbat Lagdola, Mukas Eitz. That's what I point out. That's the Mukas Eitz. There are three cases which talks about that a God. Here the word Gadol and Katan doesn't mean 13, 12. It means a Gadol means a boy who's already mature that his bia should be considered a bia. And Laktana is a girl who is young that the bia is not considered a bia. We know those ages are 9 for a boy and 3 for a girl. We're not talking about 13 and 12. We're talking about 9. A 9-year-old boy is bia considered. We have that in Yavamas, that a boy, the 9-year-old boy is considered a bia, and by a girl, the 3-year-old is considered a bia. So here the case is, if someone who's a gadol that had relations with a girl less than 3 years old, or a katan, we just had that sugya. It said that less than 3 years old is nothing. So the girl is still going to be considered a basula. That's not a question. We just had the whole sugya. Next case is a katan shabala gedola, that a boy less than 9 years old had relations with a girl. That's already gedola, not less than 3 years old. Is she considered a bula? Does the bia of less than a 9-year-old make the woman considered a bula or not? And the third case is mukaseis. Mukaseis, literally, mukaseis means hit with a stick. It just means that it would be an instrument that removed the basulam. That can be by a doctor also. If an instrument that is going to remove the basulam, that could be called a mukaseis. Or something happened by accident, she fell, whatever the case would be, that the basulam, the hymen, was removed not by a bia, but by a piece of wood.
Say you could have by riding a bike.
So is she still considered a basula or not? these three cases, Ksubas and Masayim, different Meir. Meir says all three cases are considered still a basula. The first case, surely, because she was less than 3 years old. The second case, even though she was above 3 years old, but the boy was only a bia of less than a 9-year-old, so it's not considered a bia. And Mukha states, even though the hymen was removed, but it was done, what's the word? I don't have a word for it, not manually. The fact that it wasn't with a bia. Externally or artificially, whatever the word is going to be. So that's still considered a basula. She doesn't, physically, she doesn't have the hymen, but she's still considered a basula. And ksuba 200. They seem to argue only on the last case, just to read the mission of the words alone, that the last case, the Mukha says over there, they say no. If the hymen was removed, even artificially, it's not a basul anymore, and she only is eligible for 100. When she gets married, she only is eligible for a ksuba of 100. Next case.
Even though she never had relations.
Right, never had
Just going
relations,
by the,
just right. If she doesn't have the hymen, then she's considered a be'ula. Next case, next mission over here. Besula, almana, grusha, v'chalutza, v'nanesuin. This is in contrast to what we had today in the morning. We spoke about a besula who was almana, grusha, v'chalutza, b'na'erisin. Means he never came to the husband's house. That we said before that she's still considered a besula. But here, she did come into the husband's house, but the marriage was never consummated. They never had relations. They got divorced or he died, and they never actually had relations. But she was brought into the husband's house. So you might say also she's a basula. They never had relations. But no, once she was brought into the house, so then she's not. Now it's a marriage. Is it because we don't know, or I don't know? I don't know what the reason is yet. But the law is going to be that she's not considered a basula, and she only gets a mana. And also, ein lantanas basulim. That this is the opposite. Ein lantanas basulim. If the husband comes and says she's not a basula, so then there's no claim against her. And of course, she's not going to get 200 because she's only eligible for 100. But he comes and says that I thought she's a basula and I don't want to give her anything. I didn't marry her. I thought I'm getting a metzia. I'm getting a basula for 100, and then she's not a basula, so I don't want to pay anything. So ein lantanas basula. He has no time, and she does get 100. And then another point, which is going to be again the opposite of the Mishnah before. Before we spoke about the Giorish Shifra that became Gioris, etc. before the age 3. So over there we said that's considered a basula because the basulim come back, they grow back by the age 3. But here they became a Gioris after the age 3, a Gioris Shvuya, or a captured woman, or a person who's a shifcha, and they were redeemed or converted or freed. Above the age 3 in a day, then Ksubas and Mana, they're only eligible for Mana because we assumed that they were had sexual relationships before they became Jewish or freed or in the captivity, and therefore even if they found out to be a basula, there's no title because it's assumed she's not a basula. So this Mishnah spoke about a machlokes case of Rabbi and Rabban by Mukha Seitz. Two cases. One is a girl less than 3 years old that the Mishnah surely means that she is considered a basula. The case of a boy less than 9 years old also seems so far not to be a machlokes. Everyone agrees that she is a basula. And the last case talked about if she was from the Nesuin, or even though they didn't consummate their marriage, but when she was in the Suah, she's not considered a basula anymore. And this case of a girl who became a Giora or Niftu, after age 3, they're not considered a basula, that we assume that she had relations and therefore she's not a basula. Stop here? I mean, stop here. Okay, yesterday we did double, so yeah,
So we did
a little bit. We didn't get a hold off today, but
That was before the next students.
okay. Again, if anybody that wasn't there in the beginning, tomorrow I won't be able to start till about 11:30. So if that's okay with everybody, if anybody, I hope that'll be taped. If anybody has to miss it.
So we shouldn't come before 11.
You come early, but like, we won't be sick.